Indiana Jones whip, but you do need his characteristics of life, a creative mind. Because whatever you were thinking before isn't working, so we've got to think. I say think outside the box, but not outside the Bible, okay? So we need to be able to think creatively, do something different, and then we need to have an adventuresome spirit, where we say, it's a great day. I get to help somebody. I get to bless somebody. We get to solve something. When you have that kind of attitude, life changes. Instead of just moping and whining and complaining, life becomes an adventure. So we're going to talk about execution. Execution, getting things done. And there's 4 things I think that are key. Get clear. We've got to get going. We've got to get some help. And we need to get results. If you're having a problem with your truck and you throw the hood up, in all likelihood, it's one of a handful of things. When you're having problems leading, there's something that's nagging, some chronic problem, it's not going away. It's probably just a handful of things, just a few possibilities in most instances. And I think if we can understand these 4 things, we're going to get unstuck. We're going to get our truck back on the road. We're going to be moving forward. So help me out here. Let's remember these 4, because I want you to leave here being able to remember this. So we're going to get clear. We're going to get going. We're going to get some help, and we will get results. We're interested in results, not excuses. Don't bring your elders' excuses. Bring results. And it reminds me of the ant, that get her done mentality from the book of Proverbs chapter, what was that chapter? Let's see. Let's try 6. Go to the ant, O sluggard, consider her ways and be wise. You see the sense of humor here of the writer? That an insect is using more intellect than human beings. If a person is lazy, that they're not behaving in a very intelligent way. Consider her ways, be wise, without having any chief officer or ruler. What does that mean? I can be a self-starter. I don't require somebody to supervise me. I won't be working if nobody's looking, if nobody's pushing. Without any chief officer or ruler, she prepares her bread in summer and gathers her food in harvest. So diligence and initiative and timeliness, we can learn that even from the insect world. So if an ant runs into an obstacle, what's an ant going to do? An ant's going to turn around and go home, right? They'll leave you alone. No. What are they going to do? Work around. They're going to work around. They're going to go over. They're going to go under. They're going to go around. But they're not going home. They're going to get her done. Whatever it takes. You find a way. You bring results. So let's talk about getting clear for a minute. And what are we trying to do in the ambiguity? It's kind of like Steve clearing out your property and you're trying to get some of that underbrush out of the way. That we have this ambiguity, this, I call it muck, just it gets in the way. How do we get clear? Well, we got to ask questions. Questions are tools for disciplined thinking, for effective thinking. They're tools. And you don't have to reinvent the wheel, because there's really just a set of questions that we instinctively know that we have in our tool belt whenever we face a problem. Tell me some simple questions, just some one-word questions that you might ask when you run into a problem. How? That's good. Why? When? What? Good questions. And those are going to help you. Why? Here's a goal. Why? Here's a motivation. How? Here's a plan. When? There's a schedule, a target to aim at. And you begin to put that together. This is goal path theory. I have a goal. I need a path. I'm going to start from where I'm at. How do I get from today's reality, to tomorrow's victory? Always think paths. And you're going to run into, there's going to be some pieces that you're going to have to accomplish. Let me give you an example. What about if you're doing VBS? Tell me something you're going to have to do to have VBS. We're going to have to pick some material. We've got to have a topic. We've got to have some curriculum, some material. Anything else we're going to need to have VBS? We're going to need some teachers. Any other volunteers? Yeah. Might need somebody to do crafts. Might need somebody to do snacks. Might need somebody just to get the kids from one room to the next room. Everybody has a part. Might want somebody who's going to help us advertise. Might want somebody who's going to send out cards to everybody who attended to invite them to service the next Sunday. And you have these pieces, and I'm able to lay those out and to think sequentially, to think logically, to move along that path. So asking questions. Is it better to ask questions before or after? The sooner we can ask the questions, the better, so that we don't find ourselves barking up the wrong tree. Because I thought one thing, and the person who assigned it was thinking something else. Why not go ahead and find out? You can't make everybody happy, can you? If you do VBS and you choose to do it on the life of Christ and somebody else had in mind we needed to do Exodus and the life of Moses, everybody's not going to be perfectly happy, but you do have to make decisions and ask some questions, and you have to manage expectations. When I say manage expectations, so if you're in charge of something, say the elders ask you to put up this board, so everybody knows the elders and deacons in the congregation. Where'd you get that board up? And it's going to take you a couple of months to do that. Let's say it's going to take 3 months, just as an illustration. 3 months, start to finish, got to get the board up, got to get the pictures taken, got to get it labeled, got to do these different pieces. But most guys are idealistic. Have you noticed that? We think we can do anything in a snap. So we tell the elders, you know what, I'll get that done in 2 months. Well, 2 months comes and goes, but how long did it take? 3 months. It took 3 months. So what are people saying at the end of 2 months? And you told them it was going to be up. What's the hold up here? Is he incompetent? Is he lazy? Because you know people, don't you? People are always going to have things to say. And the problem really is that we created an expectation, and maybe we should have thought about it. Now, the older you get, now that you're getting older, have you learned that things often take longer than you thought they were going to take in the beginning? Anybody have that experience besides me? It typically costs a little more, take a little more time, a little more difficult. It's easy to commit, and then pushing through to results is something else. So having this wisdom in life, you say instead, you know, I think I can do it in a couple of months, 2, 3 months, but I've learned something. And so I think I'm just going to double that. So I'm going to say we'll have that thing up in 6 months. Now, when you think you're going to have it up in 6 months, or you announce you're going to have it up in 6 months, we said it just took 3, right? What are people saying when you said 6 months, and it's done and up in place in 3 months. What are people saying about you?
Amazing.
Amazing. He's a go-getter. This is astounding. What's the difference? Took the same amount of time with both guys. Expectations. So we say under promise and over deliver. Under promise and over deliver. And in most instances, you get to set that timetable. And so you can try to impress people with rosy promises on the front end, or you can impress them with your performance and delivery on the back end. Why try to impress them with these rosy promises? How many times have all your ducks lined up in a row? All the traffic lights been green? All the stars aligned in the skies? It's not often. So I think if we will create these better expectations, we'll avoid inconveniencing someone who was counting on our delivery time. We'll avoid embarrassing someone, complicating somebody's life, because we get it done when we ought to get it done. And people will be thankful. Your elders will be thankful. Your cardiologist will be thankful, because you're going to be less stressed. Your spouse will be thankful, because you're going to be less irritable and grumpy, because you get under pressure, and she pays the price because you snap at her because you're upset at yourself. But manage expectations. And it's good to get clear on your job description. Sometimes we get upset. Well, I didn't get a job description. Well, my job is to help my elders. How can I help them? I could write one. Let them look at it, alter it, tweak it. And elders have so much to do. So much more than they have the time to do. And we're to come and help them. So I think we can help to document that process, and then that gives us something to work towards. We also have to get going. Got to get out of the gate. This is a problem when we have procrastination and hesitancy, and we don't get started very well. First thing I think to get going is to have a plan. Does it have to be a perfect plan? All you're trying to do is just proceed in a reasonable manner, because most of the time you'll be making adjustments along the way, but you need to get started, and so you have a plan. How long did Nehemiah plan? Did Nehemiah say, let's appoint a committee, we're going to study this for 2 years, and then we'll build the walls around Jerusalem? He did a night's tour, went out and looked at the wall, and came back and said, makes sense to me, we're all just going to start near where we live, and here's how we're going to sort this thing out and build these pieces. And they moved forward. They got unstuck. It wasn't a perfect plan. It was a plan, and it worked. And so we don't need to overthink it. Sometimes it's very simple. It's kind of like air flight. If you have a big plane, you need a big runway. If you got a little Piper Cub, it's not going to take as much. So we just kind of look at the circumstance, but we make a plan and create a timeline. Again, goal, path, theory. How do I get from point A to point B? I need to get a timeline here about getting these different pieces in place. So to create a timeline, I think about calendars, and not just having an event calendar, but a planning calendar. You put it on the same one, but a lot of times I have a planning calendar. Because it's one thing to say VBS is going to be on a certain date. It's another thing to start planning for VBS. Because it'll sneak up on us, like our anniversary. I know it never happened to you that you overlooked a birthday or an anniversary if we take out our phones and we put on there my wife's anniversary, I think that's mine too, is June the 4th. I put that in here. What's the default alarm on an iPhone? Is it an hour maybe? Well, what good is that going to do? So I get to June 4th and it's 3 o'clock in the afternoon or whatever, and it comes up and it says anniversary. What am I going to do? I'm probably going to go to Walgreens or Walmart and see if I can pull a rabbit out of the hat under stress. And is it going to be a very memorable anniversary? Maybe I could do better. If I back up, if my anniversary is June 4th, when should I start planning for my anniversary? What do you think?
June 5th this year.
June the 5th this year for next year. You can make a plan. And when you enter it into your calendar, instead of just saying anniversary, what could you put on there that would prompt you to action? Is there something specific I'm trying to do to get ready for the anniversary? And put that on the calendar. Does that make more sense? So what could I do? What would I put on there?
Act alive, act alive.
That's absolutely true. That's a great encouraging motto. I could put make reservations. Make dinner reservations, make hotel reservations, order flowers, you know, whatever it is, whatever the step is. And it moves you into action mode instead of just, oh yeah, anniversary. No, I've got to do this. So if you have VBS, instead of just putting VBS on there, you can back up and enter pieces. So when am I going to start? Well, maybe when would be a good time? If let's say VBS is June the 4th. When would be a good time to start my planning for VBS?
Last month, first of the year.
First of the year? I think that's reasonable. We're going to have an organizational meeting in January and get this ball rolling. So what might I put on my calendar around the beginning of January?
Materials, class materials.
Could be materials. Anybody else?
Topic or title.
Topic, title, material, all these things can go into the calendar. One of the first things is just to have an organizational meeting. You may have a team with department supervisors or education director, deacon over education, whatever. It may be that you just pull some people together. You know the amazing thing when you have a meeting like that? I think you ought to go in there with some ideas. But if you went into that meeting, if you call that meeting and you got 5 people or 10 people together and you didn't have any ideas, do you think ideas would start flowing anyway? You get good people together and they know what the topic's going to be, and they'll walk in there and they'll feed off each other. And you know, before you leave, you're going to have a lot of great possibilities about what to do. So you can put on there in the beginning, I'm going to have an organizational meeting. I want to pick out our curriculum by February 1st. I want to get my teachers recruited by March the 1st. I want to have, and you put the pieces on the calendar. So you live your life backwards. Here's the goal. Here's where I'm going to start. Here are the pieces that have to happen. And then you create the livable pace that makes it joyful instead of being under duress. Now, some people find it exciting to fly by the seat of their pants. Personally, I don't want to travel with you, okay? That's okay if you enjoy that, that's exciting. But what I like is somebody to have a plan and to have some breathing room, and we work together towards a goal. And it's not always, you know, your lack of preparation is my emergency. No, let's work on this together. Create a timeline. You might want to seek some accountability. Somebody look up for me Proverbs chapter 12 and verse 1. Proverbs chapter 12, verse
1. He who loves instruction loves knowledge, but he who hates correction is stupid.
Could y'all hear that? Read that to Mark back there. I want to make sure Mark can hear.
He who loves knowledge loves, or he who loves instruction loves knowledge, but he who hates correction is stupid.
He who hates stupid. Did you know stupid's in the Bible? That's just stupid. And there it is. What are you talking about? Correction? You know what you're talking about? Feedback. People who don't like feedback. I just want you to compliment me. I just want you to make over me. Well, wait a minute. Sometimes we need to adjust. Sometimes we need to correct. And feedback is a good thing. Where could you get feedback if you're in charge of VBS? Who might help you with feedback? Or get on your... Got to get the teachers. Get a team together. Anybody else?
Parents.
Talk to the parents. Can't do what everybody wants, but you can get some ideas, and it's going to be a blessing. When people feel heard, you want to make them feel heard and understood and respected, and they're okay if there's a group decision a different way, but they like being heard. A lot of folks you can get accountability from. One for me is my wife. My wife is good. My wife will tell me what I need to hear, not what I want to hear. And I have found that when I don't punish her, she's more likely to do it again next time. She can help me with some feedback, but seeking accountability. So I'm going to make a plan, a simple plan. It doesn't have to be an elaborate plan. You know, we're putting together a new website. So we're going to be gathering some content and building the structure, and then we're going to upload it, and then we're going to review it and go live. It can be a simple plan. Create a timeline that makes sense. Leave some buffers. Get some accountability. Maybe the elder that you report to. Maybe a fellow deacon. Maybe whoever it is, your team. And then, if you're still not going, you might want to ask, what is the next step? This is worth the price of the seminar. Are you ready? How do I get unstuck? What is the next, let me add a word. What is the next faithful step to move forward? Overcoming inertia can be one of the biggest problems we face. You got a big project. VBS is a fairly big project. And all these pieces of things that have to happen, and who's going to do puppets, and who's going to play games with the kids, and how do I have medical staff, and what are we going to do? We get overwhelmed, and it's kind of like the deer in the headlights look. You can tell who's in charge of VBS. Just look in their eyes, and you'll have a good idea. But when you get stuck, what happens if you just focus on one thing? One thing. What's the next step? What happens?
You get that one done.
You get a little traction. You can get that one thing done. Anybody else? What do you get when you ask that question? What is the next step? I don't have to see the whole staircase. I can get upstairs if I can see the next step. I don't have to see around the bend. I just have to see in front of me here. You get some mental relief, don't you? Whew. I can do that. I can do that. It's like when you're in school and you get behind and you think, I'm never going to graduate, but you say, all right, what do you need to do? I got to finish this book report. Whew. I can do that. So you get mental relief, you get manageable pieces, and you get momentum. You get momentum. When you ask what's the next step, and you take the next step, you access parts of your brain that you can't get to any other way. It just re-engages the brain. Because what happens is the brain gets flooded. We get emotionally flooded. We feel overwhelmed. It's so big. It puts you back in touch with all the smart parts of you that you're disconnected from. The executive abilities that you have that are perfectly good, but you can't get in touch with them because it just seems too big. So there's a point when you're thinking grand strategy, but now, if you're stuck, you're not thinking small enough. What is the next step? When you find out what the next step is, I think it also invites heaven to rally around you. Sometimes people are praying, Lord, help me. And I just think heaven may be saying, if you would just do something, I'll help you. But you've got to do something if we're going to help you. Take a step, and things begin to happen. You access parts of your brain. You get some momentum. It's just a cascade. So you got BBS, you're overwhelmed. What do you got to do? I just need to have a meeting. I just need to have a meeting. Well, I don't have the whole plan together. Don't I have to have the whole plan before I have a meeting? Just call the meeting. Well, who am I going to call? Okay, I got to decide then who's going to be in the meeting. Where do I get their phone numbers? Well, I'll get their phone numbers. You see how it begins to cascade? It just starts the ball rolling, and it is utterly amazing. Now, if you're still stuck, I suggest you go to Barnes & Noble, Amazon.com, and buy a book. What's the book called? Overcoming Procrastination. You need to get a good book. You need to read that book. Of course, that's a problem, isn't it? Because if I'm already not doing what I'm supposed to do, now I've got to pick out a book and buy a book, and I've got to read a book. So that was really intended to be funny, but maybe not so funny. Okay. When we are procrastinating, first of all, does it make you a terrible person if you're a procrastinator? No. Will it keep you from your potential? Yes. It can hold you back. So what do you need to do? You got to look yourself in the mirror. If I have a procrastination problem, and I can't get engaged, and I can't take the next step, I need to face that. Am I a people pleaser? Am I a perfectionist? Am I lazy? You know, what's going on here? I've got to face it so that I can address it. Because part of it can be character. When we have hesitancy is not always difficulty. Sometimes hesitancy is timidity. More often than not, it's just I need more courage to make a choice and to move forward. Something is holding me back. So I'm going to have to get good at pulling the trigger. Do I have to have all the information to pull the trigger, to get going? No. Do something. When you do something, then you start the ball rolling, and you'll probably have to adjust. Most of the decisions I made in my life were wrong, but I could fix them. I could help adjust and make it right. And successful people, this is how they live their lives. It's not that they make the perfect decisions all the time. It's that they make more decisions. They have decision velocity. And they know that they can adjust the decisions. Monitor and adjust. Monitor and adjust. You're playing ball. What happens at halftime? You're behind. You make some adjustments. You don't go out there and say, well, we're going to keep doing the same thing. We're getting our ears pinned back. Well, we'll just keep doing the same thing. We're going to try something different. You're in a battle. You change your game plan if you're in athletics. You change your battle plan if you're in the army. And the enemy comes and there's a flanking maneuver. And so captain comes in, Colonel, we've been flanked. Yeah, but you know, this plan looked really good on paper. I think we're just going to stick with it. I like the way it's laid out here. It's kind of symmetrical. It's beautiful. Let's just keep doing the same thing. That would be nonsense, right? So you adjust your game plan. You adjust your battle plan. If you're a pilot, you adjust your flight plan if you've gotten off by a degree or two. And that's the way successful people live their lives. What happens if we think we have to have a perfect decision every time? Perfect plans are a figment of the imagination. Can I get an amen this morning?
Amen.
They are a figment of the imagination. Other than the divine plan of redemption, perfect plans from a human standpoint, there's lots of ways to do stuff. Lots of ways that will work if we work them. So we're just trying to get out of the gate, get going. Does this make sense to you? Dynamic deacons are men of action. They're kicking up dust. They're decisive. They make things happen. A little plan, a simple timeline. Simple, doesn't have to be complicated. You get a little accountability. I thought we were going to have an organizational meeting. It's February. Weren't you going to do that in January? A little accountability. What is the next step? See what happens when you get going. It will astound you. And if you need to overcome that procrastination, maybe you want to study it because you do need to face it and develop the fortitude to courageously make decisions and monitor and adjust. It's okay. It doesn't have to be perfect. You'll learn something. But you'll be further down the road. So make a decision and go forward. You got to get a flat screen TV up in the classroom. How long can you sit around and debate large screen TVs? You can point committees to study TVs. You can study how many HDMI connections are perfect. What refresh rate do we really need? Is 60 hertz enough, or do we need 100, 120 hertz? And you can go on and on and on, or you can just get online, go down to Walmart or Best Buy, and make a choice. Because there's going to be new technology coming out next week. Just make a choice. It won't be perfect. It'll suffice. It'll meet the need. Maybe you didn't save a nickel. Make a decision. Because if you wait 6 months or a year, you stop the momentum of the church. You stop the progress of the church. Everything gets done, but it takes so long that we lose the sense of progress. The greatest motivator is a sense of progress. We set goals, we can meet those goals, we can achieve those goals. It encourages the whole church. It encourages the team. So we're going to get clear. How? We ask questions. Lots of questions. And probably on that list of questions, one of the most important is who? Who's in charge? If you have a goal, but you don't have a who, what do you have?
Chaos.
There's nothing there. But when you get somebody who is the directly responsible individual, things begin to move. In fact, I like to couple a directly responsible individual with what I call an accountability partner. So they've already got somebody on their team. That's a good thing, isn't it? Sometimes you can have deacons. You can put one deacon that's directly in charge of this ministry, but there's another deacon that's going to be an accountability partner. So everybody's working in team. The accountability partner is not the responsible person, not the one who's going to report, not the one who's going to drive, but the feedback loop, the feedback mechanism. I can offer ideas. Doesn't have to do the heavy lifting, but can just help to make progress take place. But getting a team is big. Sometimes we don't like to ask, why do we not ask people to help us? What do you think?
Well, you feel like you're putting your responsibilities on somebody else that you should be doing.
Well, I can do this. I should be taking care of all of this. But let's understand, if you're a deacon in the Lord's church, if you're a leader, it means you have a what? A follower. We work with people and through people. That's what leaders do. You work with people and through people. And that's not shirking responsibility. It's the way it's supposed to work. We're always afraid we're going to impose. You're not imposing on anybody to ask them to be involved in the Lord's work. So if they say no, it doesn't mean never. It doesn't mean I'm mad at you. It may just be right now. But ask. In fact, the Bible says that, doesn't it? Ask and it shall be given to you. Seek and ye shall find. Knock and the door shall be open. It's amazing the power of ask in furthering the work of the church. So how do people benefit? How does a member of the church, when I go up and ask them, I want you to be a part of my VBS team, how do they benefit? Do they benefit being involved? Taking a part. They have a part. That's important, having a part. Everybody needs a part. Needs to be involved somewhere. They get a sense of belonging. There's a connection there with people. A sense of contribution. Lots of good things are happening here. What do the elders get out of this? Do we do elders a service when we build a team instead of just doing everything ourselves? How do we help the elders? How would that bless your elders?
Gets more people involved.
More people involved. Who's at risk in a congregation?
Persons that aren't doing anything.
People who aren't involved.
They're idle.
They're idle, so they don't have purpose. They don't have a connection with people. They're not part of the team. They're in the danger zone. If you take somebody out of the danger zone and put them in the involvement zone, have you blessed your elders? Well, absolutely. So you bless the individual and you bless the elder. By the way, what happens if you get sick and you're in the hospital? How's VBS going to happen if I don't have a team? So, you could get moved to the next town. You might even get moved into the eldership. Now is everything going to come to a screeching halt? No, because I got a team. And they're going to be carrying the ball forward. What do you get? What do you get when you build a team?
Less stress.
Less stress, because many hands make light work. I get some help. Whew. That's nice. I don't have to do it all myself. Somebody help you're moving. Is it nice to have somebody help you move? That's a nice thing. It's nice in ministries. It's nice in projects. You get any ideas when you build a team? You get a little perspective. Aubrey, don't put VBS on June 4th. That's your anniversary. Aubrey, don't do it on June the 4th. You get ideas and perspective and energy and reminders. You get accountability. You get all of these things. They're all good. And when you try to do it all yourself, you have all the responsibility and no assistance. What's going to happen?
The Lord's work should always be joyful. And when it comes to that, then it comes to stress, and that's not good for anybody.
You can lose your health. You can lose your joy. You can lose your mind. A lot of things can happen. So I need to get some help. How do I do it? Recruit 101. We had a guy who was upset with me in Georgia. They put him in charge of building, or actually the grounds, not the building, but the grounds. And I don't know if it was a month, 2 months after they had asked him to do that, he said, Aubrey Johnson, this is the laziest church on the face of the earth. I thought, whoa, that's a pretty broad statement. Well, tell me more about this. He had put a sign-up list for the yard on board, and everybody had flocked to it and filled it out. Well, that doesn't mean people are lazy. It may mean they need a little nudge. Have you ever needed a friendly nudge? I know that I need to be a part of that. I'll take a week. So, the fact is, you can have a bulletin announcement, a pulpit announcement, a PowerPoint slide. You can do an article. You can do a lot of different things. But when it comes right down to it, leadership, for the most part, is one-on-one. Not glamorous. A lot of it's just one-on-one. And you ask people, and they say, yeah, I'll help. You got to practice your appeal. You might want to be able to convince people why it's important when you pull up to the West Fayetteville building and you have some colored plantings and you have the grass is nicely mowed and everything looks sharp. Why does that matter to our visitors? Why does that matter to our members? Does that affect congregational morale and our appearance in the community? You need to tell them. If you're not excited about it, I don't know how they're going to get excited about it. Whatever your ministry is, they need to understand how it makes a difference. They need to know that why we talked about in the list of questions. Why is this important? I had a fellow one time, I think we were in Oklahoma City, and I was asking him what he was in charge of. He was a deacon, and he looked down at the floor and he shuffled his feet, and he said, I don't do much, I just greet. He's in charge of greeting in the congregation. Who thinks that's nothing in a congregation?
First impression.
First impression. Absolutely critical. Everything starts with that first impression of people feeling a sense of belonging. So I began to talk to him about why I thought it was important to greet one another with a holy kiss, and that's a command from God, and good things happening. You're doing God's business and setting people at ease and making them feel like part of the family. And have you ever taken a plant and it's wilting, put it under the sink, gave it a little water, and set it in the windowsill? Have you ever done that? And come back and seen that plant and it was standing back up? I mean, you can see that with people. A little encouragement, just standing a little taller, their step a little brisker. You could see him change as he began to realize the importance of what he was doing. You probably want to compliment their gifts. When you're looking for somebody to serve in some capacity, I want you to teach the junior high VBS class. So I go up to somebody and say, hey, Bobby, I want to ask you something. And he comes over. I think in many congregations it works like this. I'll grab his hand and I'll reach over here with 2 fingers and I'll do this. You'll do. You'll do. How do I know he's good? He's got a pulse. Or you could, if you put a mirror under their nose, you can check for respiration. But if they're breathing, if their heart's pumping, you'll do. Have you ever been asked to do something and it was like people were desperate? They were just desperate. I've reached the bottom of the barrel. I was wondering if you could help me. I'm at the end of my rope, the bottom of the barrel. I have discovered that when I ask people to help, and I tell them why I thought about them, I get a different response. They may not be able to do it, but I get a different response. Because we're going to be doing Acts, and I know you love the book of Acts. You're a scholar when it comes to that. I know how you love teenagers, and they just light up when they're around you. They think you're funny and you can connect with them. But you begin to talk to people about their personal skills, their technical skills. You talk about their reliability. I need somebody who's dependable, and you always come through. You tell them why their face popped up in your mind when you thought of this, and it makes a difference. I'm putting together a top-notch team. This isn't just scraping the bottom of the barrel. And you might want to choose your setting. If you're going to have a long obligation, it's different if it's just a weekend activity. But if you're asking them to commit time, if you want a serious commitment, you probably ought to have a serious discussion, because their stick-to-itiveness is going to depend on how much they have really thought about this and made a genuine commitment to it. I think it lends some dignity, not just to pop a question and ask people to commit the rest of their year, in a hallway conversation. Go to a coffee shop or a Waffle House, go eat some pancakes, go to your house, do something where you can sit down and talk about what's really involved. I think these are some things we can do that will help us. And maybe you need somebody on your team who's good at recruitment. That would be an ideal too. But one-on-one, kind of, you're going to have a seminar. Well, tell me why I should have a dynamic deacon seminar. I can tell you, you've got that 30-second, 60-second elevator, escalator speech where you got somebody captive and they see in your eyes that enthusiasm, why it's important, why you want them on the team. You'll get a different result. But finally, we're going to aim not just at being busy. Dynamic deacons are not only busy and energetic, but effective. They get results. Being effective, getting results. God-honoring, God-pleasing, God-intended results. And that may require some creativity on your part. I have found that in churches, sometimes what holds us back, we have sacred cows and dead horses. Sacred cows and dead horses. A sacred cow is worshiping at the altar of nostalgia. That it's always been done that way. It's not been working, it hasn't been working for 5 years, maybe for 10 years, but we continue it. We perpetuate it. We put it on life support, and we just keep it going, when in fact, maybe we could reinvest our energy in another area and be more fruitful, and even revive that at a different time, in a different circumstance. But we need to be careful. The question is, I like evidence-based ministry. Is it working? If it's not working, then let's find another way, or let's find another area to invest in. Evidence-based ministry. The other thing is dead horses. What do you do with a dead horse? Do you have any recommendations?
Send it to the glue factory.
Send it to the glue factory. But that's not what people do. What do they do with dead horses? All right, they may get a whip and see if we can, beating the horse is going to help. You can harness it together with another dead horse and see if that will increase speed. You can get a committee together and study how other churches ride dead horses. You can get the dead horse a website. You can even promote it to an executive position. There's lots of things you can do with a dead horse. Probably, if it's a dead horse, you want to dismount. Dismount. So, be creative. We said earlier, think outside the box, but not outside the Bible. It's got to be biblical, non-negotiable. But there are a lot of ways to do things. There's a lot of ways to do VBS. Did you know you can do VBS by asking everybody to show up every night? We're going to put on every little scene with Daniel and his not eating the king's dainties and his praying and ending up in the lion's den, and we can have the writing on the wall. We can have everybody show up and do it every single night. But you know what? If we're having trouble with commitment, could we have the person who's doing one scene run all the kids through that scene on this night, and they come one time? And everybody goes through the same one. They're at different stations, but everybody goes through the same one, and you come one night. Instead of coming 4 nights or 6 nights, you come one night, and you do that. There's lots of ways to do things. And so we need to be creative. We also need to be responsible. If I am in charge and people are not functioning, what's the common denominator there? It's me. And a lot of times we say, those folks, they're just lazy. What's wrong with those folks? I honestly believe that most people do about as well as they're led. And when we have a group of people and they're not operating, is it that I possibly have missed some steps in leading them? Because we have the recruiting and we have the training and we have the encouraging, we have the accountability, and maybe I missed a step. Did I provide adequate training so that I know that they know what to do? Have I ever come back and systematically encouraged them? Or did I just expect them to keep going on their own? Because if I'm not doing what I need to do, it's no wonder that they're not performing as well. Not everybody is the type A personality, just get out of my way, I'm going to get it done. We love that person who just says, don't tell me how to do it, I'm in charge, I got it, you just go rest. But everybody's not like that. Some people want more direction, and some people want more encouragement. Some people need both. Some people need one. And part of the job of the leader is to say, what have I done? And if things aren't going well, maybe once you can reset. You can say, listen, I put you in charge of EBS, but I didn't help you and I didn't do what I needed to do. I'd like for us to reset and start over. I will apologize to you. I believe that will work once. So maybe we need to just do a little apology and reset, but responsibility. Look at myself. I need to be prepared. People achieve more when they prepare more. Do you believe that? The degree of your success is tied to the degree of your preparation. So if things aren't going well and I didn't prepare, I used to run a lot of marathons, and I'd always try to prepare. I would run the marathon or 26 miles several times before I went to do the event because it encouraged me to be able to do that. I wanted to plan the course. I wanted to know where the bathroom stations are and the water stations and the first aid station. But I would prepare and try to not kill myself and take a year to get ready for that event. And you do a little longer and a little longer, and you switch up your workouts and you move forward. But planning and pacing then allows you to persist. If you underestimate the difficulty, if you overestimate your ability, you're going to get discouraged, you're going to get fatigued, you're going to quit. But if you prepare, everything goes better. The other thing I'd say is just to be thorough. When I say thorough, what do I mean? You're not done until you're done. If you're in charge of grounds and you mowed the grass, are you done? You're in charge of grounds. What needs to be done to be done? might want to blow the clippings off the sidewalk. You might want to pull some weeds out of the beds. And being in charge, we were talking about asking questions earlier. If you're in charge of grounds, it might be incumbent on you to ask, what does that mean? Because being in charge of grounds, you may be thinking they want me to cut the grass. But what else is involved in the grounds? Could be landscaping. We talk about flower plantings, color plantings at the entrance to cheer people's hearts, or near the entrance of the building. Could be that, landscaping, which would include trimming those bushes once in a while. Okay, that's a part of it. It's the grounds. Anything else? Keep the trash out. Good job for the kids, good job for the youth crew, but I need to make sure it happens. Signs that are outside, maybe out of the street, that's part of the grounds. Maybe that somebody else does that, but it's good to know because it's part of the ground. The parking lot, ceiling, striping. You could go on and talk. The weed control, the fertilizing. You got to find out, asking lots of questions. But you're not finished with VBS until you send out those cards to visitors. You're not finished with VBS until you've got the room set back up. The hay bales are gone and it's set up for class so that people can come in and learn. You took the trash out so the sour milk from the donuts is not wafted, through people's nostrils the next morning. Did I get done? And I think that's a part of being a dynamic servant. So that people don't have to come behind me and clean up a lot of messes that I needed to do. All righty. What are we going to do to execute well? We're going to get clear. How do we get clear? We're going to ask more questions. It's my job. Well, they didn't tell me. It's your job. You're there to help them, okay? It's your responsibility to ask more questions. I've got to get going. What do I do if I'm not going? I'm hesitating. I'm procrastinating. I can't get out of the blocks. Can't get out of the gate. What do I do? Take that next step. Pull the trigger. Take the next step. Monitor. Adjust. Just keep the momentum. Keep things going. I didn't get help. What am I going to do? Ask. I'm going to ask. I'm going to invite with joy and with confidence people to be a part of that team. I'm going to build a team. I will build a team. I'm going to do it. I'm not going to wait. I'm going to get somebody on my team. And to get results. I'm not getting results. I'm working hard, but I'm not getting results. Probably need to take more responsibility to push things through. I want results, not excuses. Well, let's pray together. Heavenly Father, thank you for our day today. We pray you'll bless us as we talk about relationships in our next session. Thank you, Father, for helping us understand the importance of the role, to understand the requirements that help us to be successful, to understand a simple plan for execution. And Father, help us now as we take a break, prepare our minds to talk about relationships that will take us to the next level. We love you. We thank you for this wonderful day. It's in Christ's name. Amen.